Have you ever looked at your Social Security check and thought, I got my increase, so why does it still feel like I have less money? If you've had that feeling in 2026, you're not imagining it. Your Social Security benefit may have gone up, but that doesn't necessarily mean your financial situation improved by the same amount. In fact, for many American seniors, the real challenge isn't the number printed on the Social Security statement. It's what that number can actually buy once housing, groceries, insurance, healthcare, utilities, and everyday expenses are taken out. And today, we're going to break down exactly why your Social Security money may not be going as far in 2026, what expenses could be quietly eating into your increase, and what you can do to protect more of the money you receive. Let's start with something very important. Social Security benefits did increase in 2026. The official cost of living adjustment, or COLA, was 2.8%. The Social Security Administration says the average monthly benefit for retired workers was estimated to rise from about $2,015 before the adjustment to about $2,071 after it, an increase of roughly $56 per month. On paper, that sounds helpful, and it is helpful. But here's the problem. A percentage increase in your Social Security check doesn't mean every expense you face increases by the same percentage. Your personal inflation rate can be completely different from the headline inflation number. Think about a senior who receives $2,000 a month from Social Security. A 2% increase is about $56 more per month. That's around $672 over a full year before considering taxes, Medicare deductions, or other changes. But now imagine that same senior is paying more for groceries, homeowners insurance, car insurance, utilities, medications, or other necessities. If several of those expenses rise faster than the person's income, that $56 increase can disappear surprisingly quickly. And this is where many retirees get confused. They hear the phrase cost of living adjustment and naturally assume the increase means their purchasing power is protected. But COLA is designed to adjust benefits using a specific inflation measure. It is not a guarantee that your individual household expenses will rise at exactly the same rate. The Social Security Administration says the 2026 COLA was calculated from the change in the Consumer Price Index for urban wage earners and clerical workers, commonly called CPIW. Your personal budget, however, might look very different from that formula. And there is another number you need to understand in 2026. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the Consumer Price Index for all urban consumers was up 3.5% over the 12 months ending in June 2026. That doesn't mean every senior experienced exactly 3.5% inflation. Some expenses went up more, some went down, and some barely changed. But it demonstrates why a 2.8% Social Security increase can still feel inadequate when your household is facing a different mix of prices. Now let's talk about one of the biggest reasons a Social Security increase can feel smaller than expected: Medicare. If you're a Social Security beneficiary enrolled in Medicare Part B, your premium is generally deducted from your Social Security payment. In 2026, the standard Medicare Part B premium is $202.90 per month, although higher income beneficiaries can pay more. The 2026 Part B deductible is $283. This matters because you may look at your gross Social Security benefit and see an increase, but the amount actually reaching your bank account is what matters for your monthly budget. Let's make this simple. Imagine your Social Security benefit increases by roughly $56 a month, but if your Medicare-related deduction or another recurring expense is higher, the amount you actually feel in your checking account may be much smaller than you expected. Your benefit didn't necessarily fail to increase. Your expenses simply absorbed part of that increase. And this is why seniors should stop looking at their Social Security benefit in isolation. You need to look at your net monthly retirement income. What actually arrives in your bank account? What is automatically deducted? What bills come out every month? What expenses fluctuate throughout the year? Once you see the entire picture, you can understand where your money is really going. Now here's something many seniors overlook. Healthcare costs can be especially powerful because they're difficult to eliminate. You can choose a cheaper brand of cereal. You can reduce restaurant meals. You can turn down the thermostat. But when you need a prescription, a medical appointment, a specialist, or a necessary procedure, you can't always simply decide not to spend the money. That makes healthcare one of the most important areas to review during retirement. If you're paying Medicare premiums and other healthcare expenses, don't automatically assume you're stuck with the same costs forever. Depending on your income and circumstances, there may be programs that can help eligible beneficiaries with Medicare premiums and certain out-of-pocket expenses. Medicare itself explains that people with limited income and resources may be able to receive help from their state with premiums, deductibles, coinsurance, and co-payments. And this is exactly why I keep telling seniors, don't disqualify yourself before checking. Maybe you think you earn too much. Maybe you have a home. Maybe you have some savings. Maybe you have Social Security coming in every month. Those facts alone don't tell the complete story. Different programs have different eligibility rules, and the official agency, not your guess at the kitchen table, should determine whether you qualify. Another reason your Social Security money may not be going as far is something that doesn't appear as one giant bill: food expenses. You don't necessarily notice a dramatic increase every time you walk into the grocery store. Instead, you see small changes. A product that used to cost $3.49 now costs $3.79. Something that was $5 is now $5.50. You buy the same items you always bought, but your total at checkout is higher. For a working household, that might be frustrating. For a senior living primarily on a fixed monthly income, it can be much more serious. If your grocery bill increases by $50 or $100 a month, that's $600 to $200 a year. Suddenly, that Social Security increase that looked helpful at the beginning of the year doesn't feel nearly as impressive. This is why retirees should look at their expenses in categories instead of simply asking, did my Social Security check go up? Ask yourself, how much am I spending on groceries compared with last year? How much on utilities? How much on insurance? How much on healthcare? How much on transportation? How much on housing? When you compare those numbers, you may discover exactly why your money feels tighter. And here's another important point. Your biggest financial problem may not be one expensive bill. It may be 10 smaller bills. Maybe you have a streaming subscription you rarely use. Maybe you're paying a monthly bank fee. Maybe an insurance premium has increased without you noticing. Maybe you're paying for a service you no longer need. Maybe you're carrying a credit card balance and paying interest every month. Individually, these expenses can look harmless. But when you're living on a fixed income, recurring expenses are powerful because they keep taking money from you month after month. Let's say you find $25 of unnecessary monthly expenses. That might not sound exciting, but that's $300 over a year. Find $50 and you're at $600. Find $100 and you've created $200 of annual breathing room without earning a single additional dollar. That is one of the most important concepts in retirement. Saving money can be just as valuable as making money. You don't have to find a magical investment. You don't have to take unnecessary risks. Sometimes the smartest move is simply to stop money from leaking out of your budget. And now let's talk about another expense that can quietly become a major problem for retirees: insurance. Homeowners, insurance, auto insurance, Medicare-related costs, supplemental coverage, and other policies can all take a meaningful portion of a senior's monthly budget. Insurance is important, but that doesn't mean you should automatically renew every policy without reviewing it. Your circumstances may have changed. Your home may have changed. Your driving habits may have changed. Your coverage needs may have changed. And premiums can change too. That doesn't mean you should cancel important coverage just to save money. Quite the opposite. The goal is to understand what you're paying for and make sure the coverage still makes sense for your situation. A retiree should never make a financial decision simply because the monthly premium looks cheaper. The cheapest policy is not necessarily the best policy. You need to understand deductibles, coverage limits, exclusions, and potential out-of-pocket costs. The same principle applies to Medicare plans. Don't assume that the plan you selected several years ago is automatically the best choice for you today. Your medications can change, your doctors can change, your health needs can change, plan costs and coverage can change. That means retirement finances require periodic reviews. And this brings us to something that can make a huge difference: knowing the difference between your gross Social Security benefit and the money you actually have available to spend. Your Social Security benefit might be listed as a certain amount, but deductions can affect what you receive. Medicare premiums can be deducted automatically. Depending on your circumstances, taxes or other deductions may also affect your payment. Medicare confirms that most people receiving Social Security have their Part B premium deducted automatically from their Social Security benefit. So when you're evaluating whether your Social Security income is enough, don't just look at the headline benefit amount. Look at the actual deposit. Take your most recent Social Security payment and compare it with the amount you received a year ago. Then look at what changed. Did your gross benefit increase? Did your Medicare deduction change? Did your insurance cost increase? Did your utility bill increase? Did your grocery spending increase? Did your prescription expenses increase? When you answer those questions, you'll begin to understand why a higher Social Security check can still feel like a smaller retirement. But we're not finished, because there is another factor that many seniors completely overlook: taxes. And taxes can be particularly confusing in retirement because your income may come from several different sources. You might have Social Security, a pension, withdrawals from a retirement account, investment income, or part-time earnings. The fact that you're retired doesn't automatically mean your tax situation is simple. And depending on your total income and circumstances, some Social Security benefits can be taxable under federal rules. That's why you should never assume that every dollar of your Social Security benefit is automatically available to spend. Before making a large withdrawal from a retirement account, selling a major investment, or making another financial move that could change your income, consider the potential tax consequences. A qualified tax professional can help you understand your individual situation. The goal isn't to avoid every tax. That's not realistic. The goal is to avoid being surprised, because in retirement, surprises can be expensive. And if your Social Security check already feels stretched, an unexpected tax bill can create even more pressure. So if you've been asking yourself, why doesn't my Social Security increase feel like an increase anymore? The answer may be that several different forces are working at the same time. Your benefit went up by 2.8% in 2026, but your personal expenses don't necessarily follow the same pattern. Healthcare costs can take a larger share. Grocery bills can rise. Insurance can increase. Utilities can fluctuate. Taxes can affect your income. And small recurring expenses can quietly drain your budget. The good news is that once you understand where the pressure is coming from, you can start doing something about it. Now, let's get into what you can actually do about it, because understanding the problem is only the first step. If your Social Security money feels tighter in 2026, the answer isn't necessarily to find a way to make your entire retirement income dramatically larger overnight. In many cases, the more realistic strategy is to protect the money you're already receiving by identifying the expenses that are quietly eating away at it. In the first place, I would look is your healthcare spending, because this is one category where retirees can sometimes overlook available assistance. Start by looking at your Medicare costs carefully. Don't just look at the amount that arrives in your bank account. Look at your Social Security benefit statement and understand what is being deducted. If you're paying the standard Medicare Part B premium in 2026, that amount is $202 per month, while the annual Part B deductible is $283. Higher income beneficiaries can pay additional amounts through income-related adjustments. That means the Medicare deduction alone can represent a significant portion of the increase many retirees received from the 2026 COLA. But here's where things get interesting. Some seniors with limited income and resources may qualify for Medicare savings programs that can help with certain Medicare costs. Medicare explains that these state-run programs can help eligible beneficiaries with premiums and, depending on the program, other cost-sharing expenses. So if you're sitting there thinking, I probably make too much, don't automatically stop there. Check the actual rules for your state and your household situation. Your income, resources, marital status, and other circumstances can all matter. The point isn't that everyone qualifies. The point is that you should not make the eligibility decision for the government. And there's another healthcare expense you should review: prescription drugs. If you're paying more for medications than you were a year ago, don't simply assume that your current arrangement is the only option. Medicare coverage can change, your prescriptions can change, and your costs can change. Medicare's Extra Help program is specifically designed to help certain people with limited income and resources pay some Medicare prescription drug costs. Even if you don't qualify for that particular program, reviewing your prescription coverage can still be worthwhile. A medication that was inexpensive last year may have a different cost today. A drug may have moved between formulary tiers. Another plan may have different costs for the medications you actually take. The important thing is to compare based on your real prescriptions, not simply the monthly premium. This is one reason I strongly recommend that retirees keep an updated list of every prescription they take. Write down the medication name, dosage, and how often you take it. Then use that information when reviewing your Medicare coverage. Don't choose a plan just because someone says it's popular. Your healthcare needs are personal, so your coverage should be evaluated based on your situation. Now let's move outside healthcare and talk about one of the easiest ways to make a fixed income stretch further: review your recurring bills. I want you to imagine your bank statement as a leaky bucket. Your Social Security check is the water going into the bucket, but every unnecessary subscription, fee, interest charge, or overpriced service is another tiny hole allowing that water to escape. You may have a streaming service you barely watch. You may have a gym membership you haven't used in months. You may be paying a monthly account fee. You may have an old subscription that automatically renews every year. None of these charges may look serious individually, but retirement is a long game. If you're paying $15 a month for something you don't use, that's $180 a year. At $25, it's $300. At $50, it's $600. And if you have several unnecessary recurring expenses, the total can become surprisingly large. The important thing is not to become obsessed with cutting every dollar. You should still enjoy your retirement. The goal is to identify expenses that provide little or no value to you anymore. And while you're doing that review, look at your credit cards. If you're carrying a balance and paying high interest, that interest can quietly consume money that could otherwise be used for groceries, healthcare, or savings. A retiree should be particularly careful about using credit to maintain a lifestyle that their retirement income cannot comfortably support. Borrowing money isn't automatically bad, but repeatedly using debt to cover ordinary living expenses can create a dangerous cycle. If your Social Security income is already stretched, adding high interest debt can make the situation much worse. Now let's talk about housing, because for many American seniors, housing is the single biggest expense in retirement. If you own your home outright, you may have an enormous financial asset, but that doesn't mean the home is free. Property taxes, homeowners insurance, utilities, repairs, maintenance, and other expenses can continue for decades. If you're struggling to make your monthly budget work, look at the entire cost of your home. And if you're a homeowner, investigate whether your state, county, or local government offers property tax exemptions, credits, freezes, or other programs for eligible older adults. The rules vary significantly depending on where you live, so don't assume that what applies to your neighbor applies to you. Contact your local tax assessor or appropriate government office and ask specifically whether there are senior property tax programs available. Sometimes, the best retirement strategy isn't earning another $500. It's finding a legitimate way to avoid spending $500 you didn't need to spend. But I want to add an important warning here. Never make a major housing decision just because someone tells you that your home is an easy source of cash. You may hear advertisements promising that you can unlock thousands of dollars from your home's equity. Products such as reverse mortgages can be useful in certain circumstances, but they are not free money. They have rules, costs, interest, and long-term consequences that need to be understood before you make a decision. Your home may be one of the biggest assets you'll ever own. Don't let someone pressure you into using it without understanding exactly what you're agreeing to. Now let's talk about another issue that can make your Social Security money feel smaller: insurance. Insurance is necessary, but retirees should periodically review their policies. Auto insurance, homeowners insurance, supplemental health coverage, and other policies can become more expensive over time. If you've been with the same insurer for many years, don't automatically assume you're getting the best value. Get quotes, compare coverage, and understand the differences, but don't compare only the monthly premium. A cheaper policy with a much higher deductible or weaker coverage may not actually save you money when you need it. The same rule applies to Medicare-related coverage. Review your options based on your doctors, medications, pharmacies, premiums, deductibles, and expected healthcare usage. And here's another important principle. Don't cancel important insurance simply because you want to save money this month. Retirement planning is about managing risk, not eliminating every expense. Saving $50 today isn't a great deal if it exposes you to a $20,000 problem tomorrow. Now let's talk about something that many seniors don't consider until it's too late: emergency savings. When you're working, an unexpected $1,000 expense can be painful, but you may have another paycheck coming in 2 weeks. In retirement, your income may be much more predictable. That means an unexpected car repair, home repair, medical expense, or family emergency can have a bigger impact. This is why having an emergency reserve that matches your circumstances can be extremely valuable. I'm not saying every retiree needs a specific dollar amount sitting in cash. Your needs depend on your income, expenses, health, home, insurance, and other factors. But you should have a plan for unexpected expenses. Without one, you may be forced to sell investments at an inconvenient time, take on expensive debt, or withdraw a large amount from a retirement account. And that brings us to another important mistake. Don't treat your retirement account like an unlimited checking account. It can be tempting to say, I have $200,000 saved, so I can afford this. But retirement savings need to potentially support you for many years. Your retirement account isn't just money for today. It may need to provide income for the next decade, 2 decades, or longer. That means every large withdrawal should have a reason. Before taking a major amount from a retirement account, consider how that withdrawal fits into your long-term plan. If it's for a genuine emergency, that's one thing. But repeatedly, taking large withdrawals for vacations, gifts, luxury purchases, or expenses that could have been planned for can significantly reduce your future financial flexibility. And this is especially important because longevity is unpredictable. You don't know exactly how long you'll live. A retirement plan that looks comfortable at age 68 may become much tighter at age 85 if too much money was spent too early. Now, there's another factor that deserves attention: inflation. This is probably the part of today's video that matters most. Your Social Security benefit can increase, but prices can continue rising. And the longer your retirement lasts, the more important purchasing power becomes. Imagine that your monthly income stays relatively stable, but the cost of the things you buy increases year after year. Even if you don't see a dramatic change in your bank account, your lifestyle can slowly become more expensive. That's why retirees should not simply ask, how much money do I have? Ask instead, how much does my money buy? That's a completely different question. A retirement plan should consider both the amount of money you have and the purchasing power of that money over time. And this is where having a balanced financial strategy becomes important. Some money may need to remain easily accessible. Some may be invested for longer-term growth. Some may be used for immediate expenses. The right mix depends on your individual circumstances, risk tolerance, and financial needs. Don't let fear push you into making an extreme decision. Don't put everything into risky investments because someone promises huge returns. But don't assume putting absolutely everything into cash is automatically the perfect answer either. Both extremes can create problems. Now let's talk about taxes, because this is another area where retirees can accidentally make their Social Security money work less efficiently. Some people reach retirement and stop thinking about taxes altogether. But retirement income can come from multiple sources, and withdrawals from certain retirement accounts can affect your taxable income. If you need a large amount of money for a major purchase, don't automatically withdraw it without first considering how the withdrawal could affect your overall tax situation. For example, someone might need $30,000 for a home project and think, I'll just take $30,000 from my retirement account. But depending on the account and their individual circumstances, the tax consequences may mean they need to withdraw more than they originally expected to have enough after taxes. This is why large financial decisions deserve planning. If you're unsure, speak with a qualified tax professional or financial professional who can review your specific circumstances. And remember, you don't need to make every decision alone. One of the biggest mistakes seniors make is waiting until there's a crisis before asking for help. If your budget is getting tighter, don't wait until you have no money left. If your healthcare costs are rising, don't wait until you start skipping medications. If your utility bills are becoming difficult, don't wait until you receive a shutoff notice. If your retirement account is declining faster than expected, don't wait until you've lost a large portion of your savings. Early action gives you more choices, and that's really the central message of this entire video. Your Social Security check isn't necessarily too small, simply because it didn't rise as much as your expenses. The bigger issue is that retirement finances are a system. Healthcare, housing, food, insurance, taxes, debt, inflation, and everyday spending all interact with each other. If one area becomes more expensive, something else may need to be adjusted. And you don't need to make huge changes all at once. Start with your last 3 months of bank statements. Look at every recurring expense. Look at your Medicare deduction. Look at your insurance payments. Look at your grocery spending. Look at your utilities. Look at your debt payments. Then ask one simple question for every major expense. Is there a legitimate way to reduce this without putting myself at greater risk? That question can change your retirement budget. And in the final part, we're going to bring everything together. I'll walk through a realistic example of a senior living on Social Security and show how several small changes can potentially create much more breathing room each month. We'll also cover the biggest mistakes seniors should avoid when trying to stretch their Social Security income and the final checklist you should use to review your retirement finances in 2026. Because your goal shouldn't be to worry about money every time your Social Security payment arrives. Your goal should be to know where your money is going, understand what you're entitled to, and make every dollar work as hard as possible for the retirement you've spent decades earning.